we've got a refresh, a Model Y refresh internal leak, and we've got more details to the point where they might not even be calling it a Juniper at all, at least the productions. So it's Juniper, it's January, it's maybe not coming out in June like we've talked about. We've got some new details of a refresh internal leak on the Tesla side. We'll go through all the different details that we have uncovered so far, but some of these designs though, they're looking a little bit interesting for sure. Like this, I really hope it doesn't look like this, and I hope you all don't want it to look like this as well. I mean, this is probably a terrible Photoshop buying or Photoshop guide for sure, and hopefully it doesn't look like that. But here's another date as speculated from Ray for Tesla. Refresh Model Y is rumored to be sale in China starting on February 5th, the week after Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year is, I think, January 28th. So it could be a very interesting time. So the first comment here, so August for US, and Ray says, I doubt it will be later, as late as that this time, because that'd be super late. And yeah, I mean, as Ray says right here, Tesla needs the refresh Y to boost sales, and I think it might happen in early Q2. And so Q2, I think it's going to be June still, June for Juniper. I think that has a nice ring to it, but June would be late Q2. So early Q2 might be a March or something around that time frame. But shout out to Dominique for posting and creating these crazy concept photos as shown here. You can see what it potentially could look like for a Model Y in a Juniper concept type of refresh on all these different pages here. And certainly, but let's get into the meat of this, because I know all of you are looking to get into this part. And so here's a post from Zong Wen. Some information about the new Model Y at the Tesla Shanghai factory. Quote, the internal code name for the new Model Y is currently in trial production is Opal, not Juniper. The Lingang factory is expected to be closed around the 24th of January, and new styled front and rear running lights with two beaks in the headlight. Interesting. Single steering paddle and on-screen gear shift. On-screen gear shift is just like how the Model 3 has it, the Cybertruck has it, and also Model S and Model X. But single steering paddle, I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe like the gear shifter thing, like maybe they're bringing that, or maybe it's one steering wheel. I don't know. That's an interesting one for sure. Available before Christmas, or available before Chinese New Year, and delivery in February at the earliest. Number 6, no performance, ludicrous version planned at this time, which before we get all excited on that, that makes a lot of sense, because the China market and other markets as well usually don't get the performance. And so certainly that makes sense. US gets the performance in ludicrous versions. They're made out of like Fremont. And so that makes a lot of sense. Of course, this information is for reference only. Shout out to Troy Teslike for adding this. Lingang factory is actually Giga Shanghai. The 8-day Chinese New Year holiday starts on January 28th, and the performance version in China won't come from another factory. Giga Shanghai will produce it later this year. So very interesting to see all these different things here, all these different links. And I gotta say, like, maybe this Model Y Juniper is coming around sooner than we expect, and maybe this is going to be a China release later on this year. And I'm still thinking like it might line up perfectly, because maybe it gets released and maybe on Tesla's earnings call, which is January 25th, Wednesday, January 25th, they get to talk about it because it gets released a few days before. And that's what they might need. They might need some sort of wow factor, because as we saw, deliveries and productions came under their own guidance and also under Wall Street expectations. So they need some sort of, guidance or some sort of preview saying, hey, a Model Y Juniper is coming out, and we've got more exciting models coming out in the near future. But here's another concept from Dominic on what a Model Y Juniper could potentially look like on the ordering page. And I don't know, now that I'm seeing this front light bar kind of mushed together like this, I think I need to see this in person. I think this is one of those things where that light bar might look a lot better in person. than on concept photos or renderings. But the funny thing with this, like when the Model 3 Highland came out last year and we were seeing renderings, they were pretty darn close to what it actually came out to be. So we'll start to see what actually is going to be happening in the near future. And of course, Ray for Tesla posted this, and I think this is an old leak fake Photoshop as well, because we can see this looks just like a Model 3 that's been raised up and essentially morphed to look like it's a Model Y, but it really is not going to be a Model Y. And shout out to James Cat for posting this summary of the recent rumors on the Model Y refresh timeline. China launch after Chinese New Year, start of February. Berlin at the same timeline based on the post below. Austin, Fremont, probably the same-ish timeline given that they recently had downtime for upgrades. Best case is basically mid Q1 for all. Worst case is probably by the start of Q2. So in case you don't know what that means, maybe mid Q1, that's like a February to March, and by the start of Q2 would be April. And so really, if that's the case, we're not going to see deals on this type of vehicle for a while, at least until the end of December, because when they release these vehicles, they're not going to be any sort of subsidized interest rate or any sort of subsidized discount. But the one thing is for sure is they will have some sort of discount on the older generation, the older Model Y. And also I think maybe the older or the Highland Model 3 will start to get pretty interesting as well. And maybe we'll start to see a more of a separation between the Model Y and the older Highland Model 3 in terms of pricing and discounts and everything like that. But here's a recap of everything. The internal code currently in trial production is Opal, not Juniper. A nice little switch there. And maybe they did that so that people inside don't confuse it to be Juniper and they don't try and leak it or anything like that. Redesigned front and rear running lights, 2 brakes in the headlights, single stock steering control exclusive to China maybe, on-screen gear shift feature, expect to be available after or before Chinese New Year, and deliveries could start as early as February. But still, at the end of the day, very interesting to see. And here's all the details in case you missed it. We just talked about with everything on the Tesla Model Y, and pretty exciting, the Juniper at least, on when it actually could be coming out.